So I want to see my name in lights. How would I make a shape, a drawing that I make in Illustrator, into a neon sign that I can put into my Photoshop file if I had to do something like environmental branding? Let's take a look at how you might be able to create that kind of effect. What I'm going to do, I'm sharing my screen, and we're going to take a look at, first we're going to go to Illustrator. So what I've done in Illustrator is just drawn my name. If you are fighting with the pen tool, this is a great time to practice. It's just get in there, click and drag to make curves, click, click to make points, to make corners. And so you want to end up with a path that is what you want to make into your neon sign. You'll notice that I've got this selected. I've got no fill and no stroke turned on right now. I'm going to copy that file. I'm going to switch back into Photoshop where I have a blank wall. Now, something I want to talk about. If you have multiple layers in your file, you'll notice right now I've got a background layer which happens to be locked. And if I have more layers on here, when I paste my paths, it's going to want to create a vector mask out of that path. So this is the best way to do it, is to have it set up so you just have, right now, all I've got is a file. It's plain. It's got one layer on it that happens to be locked. And in my paths menu, I've got nothing. So what I can do then, if you don't see your paths menu, by the way, it lives right there under window, like everybody. They're all under there, all hiding there. So what I'm going to do is paste that file in here. I'll just open this up a little bit better so you can see more of what the schmutz is going on. So I'm just going to Command V paste or edit paste right there. And it says you've got stuff in your back pocket that you brought with you from Illustrator that is vector information. What do you want me to do with that? What I'm going to do is paste it as a path. We're going to use that path in Photoshop to make our neon sign. And you'll see there it shows up. Right here, again, in layers, I still only have one layer, but it knows in the paths menu, I'm going to bring that vector information and pull it in here and drop it in as what it calls work path. Work path means it's not saved, which means that you could lose it. So we don't want to lose it. So we're going to come back here. Now I'm in the paths menu here. In the hamburger menu of the paths menu, I can save that path. I've been saved. Yeah, you can name it whatever you want. So now I can come back and get to it anytime I want. Now I'm going to go to my layers menu, create a new layer that I'm going to use for my first layer of the neon sign. Layer one, don't care, sure. There's my layer one. Now I'm going to come back here and choose the color that I want to use for my crazy neon sign. Something kind of hot. So I'll use something like that, maybe a little bit brighter than that so it's not quite so dark. There we go. I've got a crazy wild pink color that I think is great. Now I'm going to get into my brushes menu and say I want to start with something that's perhaps, this will depend on the resolution of your photo. I've got a fairly low res photo here that I used. So I'm going to get a brush that's say 25 pixels wide, hardness of 0. If you find yourself going, I've got some wacky brush that's got, leaves on it, get out of there, get into your general brushes here and choose soft round, and then choose the size and the hardness of 0. That'll give you what you want. The other thing you can do, and this is kind of fun, in brush settings, you can turn on noise, which gives your brush a little kind of a dissolve or kind of a speckly, pixelated edge to it, which kind of looks good in some settings. So you can play with that and see whether you like it or not. So far, yeah, I've got the brush, I've got the color, I've got the brush settings turned on. Now what I'm going to do is come back to my paths menu, choose path 1, and then in my hamburger menu on the path menu, I'm going to come back here and say stroke that path. What that will do is say I'm going to use, what tool do you want to use? The brush, the one I've already set up. Okay, pow. And what that does is on layer 1, the layer that we made, it will do that to it. My opacity, you'll notice here, is set to 52%. Maybe I want to undo that. I'm going to change my opacity back up to 100 or somewhere close to that. Change the path, come back here, do the stroke path, and now we'll get something quite a bit brighter than that. There you go. So now, because I've made this a separate layer, I can change the blending mode of this layer. Right now it looks like spray paint on the wall, but I can do hard light on that, or screen, or lighten, or color dodge. So there's a bunch of controls in here that you can play with. You can even do difference and say, show me your exclusion or subtract. So there's a lot of cool things that you can use in here to get that effect, to look the way that you want it to. But that's not the best thing. What we're going to do now is come back to create a new layer, layer 2, great. Change my brush size down to say 15 and leave everything else alone. Get into your color menu and pick a lighter color of the version that you've already got going. Back to the paths menu, and we're going to stroke that path again with the new smaller brush, the new lighter color, pow, on the new layer. So I've still got, again, complete control over how dark I want this to show up. Another layer, sure, change the color. I'm going to use white this time, so I'll just flip that right there. And my brush size, I'll make it even smaller, maybe like 7 pixels, sure. Path menu, stroke my path with my new white small brush, and I get that effect. So now you can see what I'm talking about. You're starting to get a pretty great effect. Click off in your path menu off the side, and you see you start to get something that looks pretty great. So hopefully you find yourself thinking, I can make a neon sign. I know how to do it. So long, have fun.